Hello, everyone. George, first of all, thank you so much for having us today. You've given the AARP Purpose Prize such a remarkable platform, and I'm so grateful. Thank you. As George said, the AARP Purpose Prize is the only national award given to people over 50 who founded nonprofit organizations to just go after problems that they saw in their community or even broader in the country or in the world. These are remarkable people who turned their years of experience, their lived experience, into solving a social problem. And at AARP, we obviously give the award, but we feel it's also our obligation, our happy obligation, to hold up and celebrate and showcase the work throughout the years. This is not just a one-time thing. And I'm so delighted to be with one of those remarkable people today, Linda Eagen, who is the founder of Fulton Block Builders. Sometimes I have trouble with that, Linda, Fulton Block Builders. I will reduce it to the smallest phrase, which is a neighborhood revitalization program, but it's so much more than those three words imply. And Linda, we thought we'd start today, right, by showing a video about Fulton Block Builders to just give you a little flavor of the organization, and then we'll come to talk to Linda.
Right.
A new chapter is unfolding in the city of Fulton.
Residents are choosing to build on the strengths of our community.
We are meeting new neighbors,
creating new partnerships,
and establishing a new enthusiasm.
Our new chapter is bringing about a new way of looking at things.
A new way of looking at our city and our neighbors.
Residents are partnering together to bring about positive investment.
This is where we'll take all of her first day school photos.
I restored this 1878 house to the beauty once.
I moved into this neighborhood in 1966. Now I'm discovering my neighbors all over again.
We built this deck to make tenants feel more at home.
2 years ago, we moved back to Fulton, and through Block Builders, we developed new friendships.
We are about people getting together to strengthen the social fabric of our community.
We really got to know our neighbors.
And we all work together to get the job done.
We are rediscovering our heritage.
We are not concentrating on fixing, but rather reinventing.
We are neighbors, reshaping Fulton, one block at a time.
We are Fulton Block Builders.
We are Fulton Block Builders.
We are Fulton Block Builders. We are Fulton Block Builders.
We are Fulton Block Builders.
Watch us grow.
Share our pride.
We are Fulton Block Builders. Watch us grow. Share our pride.
Well, I want to live in that neighborhood, by the way, so I'll have to talk with you afterwards. But Linda, again, thank you for being here, and I'm so thrilled that you get to tell this story. So tell us about Fulton Block Builders. What's the mission? What do you actually do in that neighborhood, in that community?
Well, first, Barb, I really thank you for this wonderful opportunity. This is I'm always thrilled to be sharing the story of Fulton Block Builders, and this is just a great platform. So thank you so much. And as you started out, in a nutshell, it is a resident-driven community revitalization program. Our mission is to empower all Fulton residents to take collaborative ownership in their improving their neighborhoods. We envision a world where every Fulton resident is part of a resilient, supportive, thriving community where all can safely live, work, and play. So it's really about making changes, but making sure that the community residents are the driving force for those changes.
And tell me about what a change would look like. Is this a particular neighborhood in Fulton, or what is sort of the geographic span? And then what's the before and after picture?
Well, you saw in the video, there were a few of those after pictures. So we have many on our website that you can go and take a look at. And there's also many on our Facebook page. But our before pictures are, Fulton was decimated by the loss of manufacturing over the last several decades. Most recently, our Nestle plant left with after 100 years of being in Fulton. We were known as a community that smelled like chocolate for 100 years. When Nestle left, that was just devastating to the community. We also lost other large businesses and then supporting businesses. When they left, many of our residents had to move. Absentee landlords started buying up properties. Single family homes were turned into multiple family homes. And disengagement and disrepair started to become more the norm in our city. People became less involved. People weren't running for government. People were waiting for someone else to come in and fix our community. They thought maybe another Nestle would come, but over time, our city really took a negative, such a serious negative blow that I started saying to people, you know what? Even if another company came here, the employees probably wouldn't live in Fulton because we're not a desirable community anymore. So what we are really doing is going from disengagement to engagement, from undesirable properties to desirable properties, and trying to turn Fulton into a community where people with choices choose to live in this area instead of people that really had no other options get stuck here.
Linda, I'm going to come back to you and why you chose this work, et cetera. But I'm going to start with the question of why did you choose to start a different organization? I know you can explain the fiscal agent part of this, but why did you choose to start something new, if I've characterized that correctly, instead of working through city government or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really, when you think about community revitalization, typically what happens is they wait until the properties have become completely destroyed, pretty much, and they have to move the people out and spend tens of thousands of dollars on that one property. Then they also do it more scattershot. So, in a year, we might have one or two properties on different sides of the city that they're really spending that federal community revitalization money to improve. And then they hope that one house is the catalyst that will improve that whole neighborhood. We're nothing like that. So we work in clusters with clusters of neighbors. The neighbors decide what kind of work they're going to be doing on their properties. There's no eligibility requirements. Anyone of any means can participate in the program. And by doing so, we really didn't have another agency in existence that we could go to. The first 2 years, we did use the city's nonprofit arm as our fiscal agent. It didn't make a lot of sense for me to start my own nonprofit right away because I had no idea if Fulton Black Builders was even going to work. So rather than do that, I asked the city to take us. They really had some trouble understanding these crazy concepts about, helping people that sort of already have the means to do the work to their houses, but they didn't understand it was about the lack of confidence in their neighborhood that was preventing people from doing the repairs that needed to be done. So there were a lot of questions. There were a lot of, are you sure that's the way you want to do it? So they became more involved with trying to run the organization for me. After 2 years, we switched over to a new nonprofit, and that has worked out beautifully.
Great. So you're another nonprofit is your fiscal agent, but you obviously have to work very closely with the city. What challenges does that bring, or is that exactly the solution that allowed you to do what you do?
At the very beginning, like I said, the city did not understand what we were doing and questioned a lot of it. We now have a new city government, and we are very closely aligned with the new city government. They see the the great work that's happening. We've been in existence now. This is our 6th year. So we've also got a track record in the city. But our new mayor and our new council put me up for awards on a regular basis, go on and on about what Fulton Block Builders has been doing in the city, the positive changes, the transformation that's taking place. Most recently, our mayor submitted my name as one for Small Town America's Civic Volunteer Award, and I was one of 100 100 awardees this year. So that was fun.
Nice. Congratulations on that. Well, that leads me back to you. Why do this work? What in your background led to this, or maybe it didn't? Your background isn't relevant at all. But tell us your story.
My degrees are in social work and criminal justice. So what's nice about this, when I talk to people about this community revitalization, is you don't have to be a professional in community revitalization, obviously, in order to have this program your town or your city. But it does work on the strengths of the city. And that's how I approached families when I was working as a social worker. We don't start out telling families, oh, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. You find out what's going well, and you build on the strengths of that. So this is called the healthy neighborhood approach, and it is builds on the strengths of the city, and it resonated with me right away. We are a city of 11,000 people. Like I said, as we lost manufacturing and we lost the longtime residents, and the property started to sell, I just couldn't sit back and see that happen. We moved here about 35 years ago. I'm not a native of Fulton, but we raised our family here. I love this community. I have met some of the dearest friends in my life in Fulton, and I just wanted to make sure that I could see something positive taking place. And working on the strengths is really what I wanted to do. You know, it doesn't help to say codes. You go in there and you find them or do this or do that. Why not do the more positive approach to the revitalization? So that's why I started. There was a young man that went to school with my daughter, and he wrote a story for the Syracuse New Times that was entitled America's Sadness, Fulton, New York, America's Saddest City, or something to that. And when I read that story, I just went, I can't take it. If people don't see it, Fulton, where are we going? We need to do something. That's why I started it.
That's great. I love the phrase you used too, confidence in their community. It's not necessarily that people don't have the money to do it. Some may not, but it was their lack of confidence. It sounds like really spurred you on as well. So how do you measure success? What does success look like at Fulton Block Builders?
Success is measured in a number of different ways, Barb. First, how many applications we get each year. So if people are still wanting to see improvement in Fulton, then they're going to be applying. So the core of our program is a Block Challenge grant, and that allows groups of neighbors to come together to agree to do exterior improvements on their properties. And in doing so, we also ask that they come to group meetings, a few usually in someone's home, that they plan celebratory events, and that they share resources. So if one of them's really good at landscaping, they might share that knowledge. If one of them says, I'm going to rent a lift so that I can paint the high peaks of my house, somebody else may say, hey, that's a great idea. I've got to do some painting also this year. So how about we rent that together and we both use it on the same weekend? So those kinds of things, which really start to build that neighborliness. Our grants are about $1,000 per property, so it's not a lot of money. So again, we couldn't be working in the totally destroyed or distressed areas of the city. We have to work in those areas that are tipping, some tipping for the good, some tipping to the negative, but by getting the groups to invest all at the same time and in close proximity, they make a positive change in just 1 year's time to tip their neighborhood over to a strengths-based neighborhood again. So that's really the core component of our program and how it works. We raise the money locally. We still have some businesses left here in Fulton, and they are very generous. So I raise $50,000 to $75,000 locally, and then we have a foundation, the Richard S. Shinneman Foundation, that gives us $150,000. So each year we raise about $200,000 to $225,000, and that allows us to fund about 200 to 250 properties each year, which makes a big impact in this small
That's
community.
Yeah, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. I'm so interested in this idea of a community, a neighbors working together. It's not just I'll paint my house, but let's work together. Do you find you need sort of one catalyst to get a neighborhood together, or do you get a grant application and then you work with that neighborhood? How's that work?
It's interesting. There's two steps to the application process, and the first is a pre-application. But we don't go out. Occasionally, we'll ask somebody to organize a particular neighborhood, but rarely do we do that. We really want this to be resident driven. So one person in one neighborhood will say, you know what? I think I'm going to get my neighbors, see if my neighbors are interested in doing this. So they start knocking on doors saying, hey, are you interested in the Black Builder program? And at first it was pretty hard because people thought that there were strings and
Yeah.
all sorts of requirements that were there, or it was too good to be true. And now people understand what it is. We put signs in everyone's yard each year that's participating. So the city residents are just watching all of the houses and the improvements that are taking place. So they get it now. They understand what the program's about. So one person will decide to be a block leader and organize their neighbors. So it can be anywhere from 5 to 15. Most of our application groups are 10 to 15 homes that are participating. And again, like I said, close proximity. So we always say you need a snowball and you need it to start moving rapidly. And by doing these clustering, that really helps that snowball to move.
Yeah, great. I have to ask the COVID question. Maybe in a few months or so, we won't have to ask it anymore. But how did COVID affect your work? And did you change anything during that time period that you decided to adopt permanently?
Yeah. Well, if you think of a virus that is anti-Fulton block builder, COVID is it, because you want people to get together and to be neighborly and to share resources. And COVID told you stay away from each other, lock yourself in your house, don't go visit anybody. So, we really thought that the first year of COVID that we might not have a program at all. We had 21 blocks apply that year, and we ended up funding all of them, 204 properties. And they did amazing work. We had our highest completion rate that year. People were home, so they got their work done. Yeah. We had a 90% completion rate that year, which was, like I said, the highest that we'd had. People couldn't do their celebration events the way that they normally would do. But like one block decided to have a block-wide garage sale. And so they were still separated, but all the money that they raised, they gave to their local elementary school and said, this is earmarked for any needs that you might see as a result of COVID. We had other blocks that just raised money and gave it to their favorite charity that was working particularly in the COVID area. We had folks knocking on each other's doors. If they knew there were small children in the house, they were knocking and just leaving games and gifts for the children to play. They were making sure that their elderly neighbors were taken care of if they needed any medication. So because they did know each other, it really did make a positive impact. We certainly point to that when we have our group meetings, and how important it is for us to know those neighbors and what those needs might be. And that is an aspect we are surely going to continue as we move forward. Our fundraising also, we suspended fundraising once COVID really took place that year, and our local residents, businesses, and civic groups continued to give us money. So our
Oops. Oh, Linda, are
Go
you
ahead.
back? Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Sorry.
We couldn't hear you for a minute. Yeah. So you've mentioned some already, but is there a particular success story that you like to tell about Fulton Block builders or a person within one of those blocks?
Yeah. There are lots, Barb. There are lots, and each year I am inspired more and more as I deliver all of the checks when people finish their work, and
Nice.
so I get to see the work, and they give me tours and show me all sorts of aspects of their homes, not only on the outside but on the inside, and their skills. And so it's I even had one year a concert pianist do a wonderful show for me in his living room, and it was just wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's great to hear people talk with pride and be thankful for the work that they've completed, and say in so many neighborhoods I have people saying, I live in the best neighborhood in Fulton. I have the best neighbors. I live in the best neighborhood. And I'm like, everyone thinks they live in the best neighborhood nowadays. That's pretty cool. So
They have confidence in their community, just what
yeah.
you were saying your goal was. That's so nice.
And I delivered the check to Howie. Howie was a senior citizen, and he was telling me, "Oh, Linda, this has made such a transformation in our home, not only in how it looks, but in the safety of our home." So, what he did was he replaced his front stoop and steps and sidewalk going up to his house. He said, prior to doing this work, my wife couldn't even use the front door. If I was carrying groceries or anything, I was scared to death because the railing wasn't stable and the steps were steep. And now not only does it look beautiful, but we both use the front door. We go out and we enjoy the sunshine. We feel safe. We feel secure. We know our neighbors. And it's just been a very, very positive transformation for them living in their neighborhood.
Yeah. Wow. That must feel pretty good when you hear those stories.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one last question, and that is, I've got to think, and I think part of the reason you were a Purpose Prize honoree was your model seems to be quite replicable for other communities who have this situation and want to address it. Can you tell me what are the 2 or 3 principles or words of advice you'd give to a city who wanted to have a Fulton Block Builder like program?
Sorry for the but I don't get Fulton blockbusters. So there. Well, I would say go with your passion. What started me was that strengths-based approach, and that resonated with me. And so that's something that's very important. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It's about 20 to 25 hours a week that I put into the program, and I have about 20 volunteers that help me to make this whole. We don't have any paid staff. We are all volunteer. Eventually, we might go to some paid staff, but not at this point. So that commitment needs to be strong and needs to be there. I would say clustering, clustering, clustering. Unlike regular traditional community revitalization, really work in those groups. Really make sure that you've got neighbors all getting to know each other and that you're working with close proximities of people. They don't all have to be one after another, but they shouldn't be a block away and then another block away. Should be pretty close to each other. The other thing is those tipping neighborhoods. It's $1,000 that we're offering, so don't go to the completely destroyed house and try to fix that with $1,000. It's just plain not going to work. And that $1,000 seems like nothing. At first, I thought this isn't going to work, but it's enough. It's enough to get people to come together and say yes. Mm-hmm. Then they have them spend $4,000 or $5,000 to get $1,000 is even better. So that's exciting. Last year we did have a grant from a health foundation in our area, and they saw our work as age-friendly work, and they wanted to see this happen in more communities. So they commissioned me to complete a replication manual, which is
Oh,
now,
that's great.
yeah,
Yeah, that's terrific. There you
yeah.
go.
But just this week we had an event here in Oswego County, which is our county, for all the mayors, so that it could be replicated in more towns across Oswego County, so we could see positive. That would be like clustering in the neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is a fabulous place to end in terms of hope for next steps and what lies ahead.
Yeah.
So, Linda, thank you so much for telling us about Fulton Block Builders and you and why you took on this work. And I think everybody who's hearing this can appreciate what a remarkable person Linda is and why we were so proud to have her be a Purpose Prize honoree. So, thank you.
Thank you, and this has been such a pleasure. I've had a great time.
Good.